Hello, good night, everybody. It's another Monday night. We are happy to be able to join you in this way. After a very busy day,
Mm-hmm.
then again, we don't ever not have busy days. That's just a part of our life now. So we're just going to allow for a few people to join us, share the live when we begin. Well, we have begun. Share, share the live, and we hope that tonight it will be a blessing. If you see me looking down a little bit, I also try to share the live myself. Yes, Billy?
Good night. Good night to those who are coming on. We're glad to see you. We hope that you're able to just be ministered to through those sessions that we've been having
Yeah.
through this Facebook Live. And, always you can go back and check the information. You can give us a call. You can send us an email. And
Suggestions.
you can send suggestions as well.
Perspectives.
As we just continue to, minister as God has led us to. We know that in a time like this, many churches, many groups don't spend as much time focusing on relationships as they would only when it goes bad.
Mm-hmm.
That is when we hear, all the hullabaloo. But we want to help us not get to the place of having to discuss the bad news,
Yes.
but rather discuss relationships in a positive, a healthy, a happy way, so that we don't have to become statistics.
That's right.
And we know that the research continues to show that about 50% of our Christian marriages are ending in divorces. And that is saying something about what is happening on the marital front, what is happening on the education front, the ministry to marriages. And we want to just be able to minister to persons in this way.
Yes.
So, as you come on, as usual, share the live, start a watch party, call somebody and tell them, hey, they're going to be talking about something interesting tonight.
Yes.
Rev will tell you what that is. So that we could, you could just all share. And again, we ask you to share with us. Share with us.
Yes.
Send your comments, your questions,
Mm-hmm.
because we learn from you as well.
That's right. We are still learning, essentially.
Yes.
And we thank God for you. Just tell us if you're hearing us properly, if there's anything that is that we could improve upon. We'll be happy to hear. We have gotten some really fantastic suggestions.
Yes.
Within our budget, we're trying to do, and we hope to make
And
it
our space.
better,
Yes.
more high quality as we go along.
We are working on it. Trust me, we are.
And if you know my wife, you know she's working on it. And one thing I appreciate about her is that she, anything she does it, tries to do it well, and to the best of her ability. Right. Good. So what are we discussing tonight? And we want you to see this discussion not necessarily as something that is happening now, because as you listen to us, you might be saying, well,
That's not my problem.
that's not my problem now. The truth is, we don't know when these problems come up or when they will come up. The sound is a little low. We're going to try our best to adjust.
We have to raise our voice. Okay, that
And
may help.
we'll raise our voices a little bit. Please tell us if you're hearing us properly. Sometimes the device that you have may be low on volume.
Yeah, so turn
Yes?
it up.
And so we'll try our best. So tell us if you're hearing properly. Good. And please share it. We're going to give you a chance to share the live. If you like it, you can like it, and you can share it. Good. We honestly believe, and we want you to know this, that during your marriage, during your relationship, you will have to deal with some kind of crisis. Good night, Stacy. Good night, everyone. We see you tuned in. Sometimes we're paying so much attention to other things, and to notes and
The
other
notes
things
and
that
stuff,
we
yeah.
miss when people come on. But we want you to know we appreciate you.
Yes.
Sometimes we may not call your name, but trust me, we see you, we acknowledge you, and when we go back and watch, we can see, and so forth. Excellent. So, how do you deal with unplanned events? If you have been married for any length of time, you would know that there's some things that happen that you never planned for. Good night, Chanel.
Yes. Good night.
They just happen. Life happens. And dealing with your relationship by itself is a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Getting better in your relationship is a challenge by itself. What do you do when things happen that you never planned for?
Mm-hmm.
Let's believe.
Yeah.
That's true.
And we call it a crisis.
Mm-hmm.
That is that thing that tests you, stretches you
Mm-hmm.
in a way that you didn't expect. As a matter of fact, we say it about many other things in life, but trust me, it is also true for relationships. Of course, we don't only talk about marriages, but also friendships.
Mm-hmm.
Crisis shows what the relationship is made of.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you find yourself in those unexpected situations, those sudden situations that most times are negative, or they challenge your ability to cope as you
Yes.
normally would, they tend to show what your relationship is made of,
Mhm.
and also what you as an individual have. And you've heard me say this many times, that at the end of the day, the relationship is the sum total of the individuals.
That's right.
So you have to make sure you know what you're bringing to the relationship. What is your ability to bounce back as an
Mhm.
individual? Because you're going to bring that quality to the relationship.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
that makes the relationship better when these unexpected situations, when the crises arise.
That's right. And we're going to talk about that a little later. It builds resilience.
Mm-hmm.
How do you become more resilient as it relates to dealing with crisis?
Yep.
Any one of you who are listening, you've been in a relationship for a while or you've been married for a while, I'm sure you'll say amen to this.
Yeah.
That crisis those unplanned events
Mhm.
will come your way. And as I said, it's hard enough that you have to deal with your own relationships and the struggles that come with that. But when the crisis hits you, what do you do?
Mhm.
Yes? And trust us though, when we say that it is actually possible. And there are many examples of couples there with inspiring stories who have dealt with crisis and
Yeah.
come out stronger than before. So what are those things that happen that you never planned for, Billy?
Okay, so there are a number of them,
things.
but we only want to touch on just a few. And if you can think of
Yes,
any,
please share with us.
share with us.
Mhm.
One of the things, and this is coming out of COVID a lot, because of the shutdown and the loss of the closing of businesses. But one of the things that often challenge marriages or relationships is, and we talked about it last week, money, is the loss of income, the loss of a job.
Any loss?
Any kind of loss.
Mhm.
But when you have the loss of a job, we can start with that one, the loss of a job, there tends to be a pressure that is put on the relationship.
That's right.
But let's look at some other losses too.
Mhm.
What are some of the other losses you can have in a relationship that can serve as a crisis? You could have a personal loss that comes in terms of death.
Mhm.
You could have loss of health.
Mhm.
I'm not going to go into all the losses because there's so many types of losses. But
Mhm.
these are three main ones that often challenge relationships and marriages significantly.
That's
We often say our marriage vows, for better or
Oh.
worse, in sickness, in health, for
Richer
richer,
for
for poorer. So these are the things that we often see happening, richer for poorer. When we come on the poorer side, because there's loss of income,
Yeah.
there's loss of a
COVID
job,
hits.
like
And some
COVID.
people were furloughed, some people lost their jobs, some
Yes.
people are still
Were
seeking
retrenched?
jobs. That's a
Yes.
crisis.
That's a
Because
crisis.
if you're paying a loan,
Mm.
if you were studying, if your
Yeah.
child needed particular things, they need special needs, maybe a special needs situation,
Yeah.
what do you do? It's a crisis,
Yes.
and it's going to put some pressure on the relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah?
So
Loss
that
of any kind.
is loss of any kind.
We can share personally.
Mhm.
We lost a baby.
Yes.
Yeah, we're still recovering.
And you grieve forever.
In a sense, you do.
Yeah.
It has been tough. We're better now.
Yeah.
Yes, but the loss of the baby could have rocked us in a way that it affected our relationship.
And the statistics actually show that if you check statistics about marital breakdown, one of the things that often knocks at the survival of a marriage is actually death of a child in a marriage,
Mhm.
because there's often that tendency to want to blame, or the
Right,
loss
I'm
can
gonna
be so
talk about that.
overwhelming that you feel that you cannot go on because you no longer can appreciate the partner without grieving so deeply the loss.
Mhm.
And so again, it's important that you understand who you are going into the relationship.
Yeah.
So that loss can be something that definitely affects the relationship.
That's right. And loss of any kind.
But
So,
can I just mention
yeah.
the loss of health again? Because this is a big one.
Yes.
We have a lot of persons being diagnosed with illnesses. We have a lot of NCDs in the Caribbean. We have cancers that are taking over marriages. And I have encountered couples where one is normally the woman, but one partner was diagnosed with cancer, or they were diagnosed with, the diabetes that is just debilitating. They have to be taking insulin, or their lives have just been turned around. And the other partner, because of the physical, the emotional, and even the financial changes, they lose interest, and sometimes that often causes an issue in the relationship.
So something like so the volume is a little low. That we're going to try and work the best of our abilities. Just tell us if you can hear both of us. Just know that, for example, let's say you get diabetes, that we know can affect one's sexual sex drive, sexual ability to perform sexually. Yes. So you get sick, but then you don't make the connection between that and the sex drive and so forth, and then that has a way of affecting the relationship. After the loss of a baby, sex drive or interest may be affected. The point we're making is that at Christ, any loss can change anybody, and that can have ripple effects on a marriage.
Yeah.
What are the others? We say then accidents. Accidents. An accident can happen to anybody at any time. Again, and that will result in physical repercussions and changes. You get in a car accident, you may get in some other kind of accident that can put some pressure on the relationship, because there are things that happen as a result of that. Yes? And so please understand that. We don't plan for accidents. We don't know when they're going to happen. And the type. And in the accidents, there's some other things that can come. There are financial pressures that come, because you have to deal with the result of what has happened. Yes?
But what about those accidents that cause a change in the physical features? We have persons who have experienced fires, and they've had burns. We have that situation where lots of persons now are experiencing vitiligo, or however you pronounce that word, but that experience a condition where the skin changes, and the person you married is not the person that you're looking at today, and that often changes. And again, I'm saying that these unexpected situations tend to serve to reveal what the relationship is made of, and what you as an individual has brought to that relationship. Because at the end of the day, nothing is perfect. We're not guaranteed anything but change, and ultimately by death. And so we have to be willing and able to navigate these uncertain, sudden situations in life.
And it can be really tough. And never forget this couple, the man, the woman, I think it is the man who got in the accident. It was a fire. And let me tell you, he looked like a monster after it. He was hard to look at. And when his wife came to him to visit after how many times of visitation, he said, honey, I love you, and I understand if you want to leave the relationship. I think you could be more satisfied with somebody else. And she said, no, I love you, I'm sticking with you. It is from richer to poorer, from sickness and health, good times, bad times. No, that I tip my hat to that woman. And I think I would do the same for my wife. But until I get to it, it's one thing to talk about it. No, it's another thing to experience it. My hope is and prayers that the relationship is strong enough that it can deal with a crisis. Yes?
So tell us, what are some of the other challenges or things,
the unplanned things,
unplanned events that can challenge a marriage?
Good night, Luan.
Good night, Katisha. Yes. Those are some things. If I just share a story, and I'm sure many of us have heard it, but it's so powerful. There's a story about a man who was in love with this blind woman, and she just kept saying, I would do anything to get my sight, sight. But he loved her so much that one day she was promised a life-changing surgery where she did regain her sight. And when she finally, because you're able to hear the voice, she was able to see her lover for the first time. She was taken aback in a negative way, and she was thinking to herself, and she said it, "But you're so ugly." Not on, and I think she left. But the reality was that he had actually sacrificed his eyes so that she could have seen. So the ugliness that she was seeing was his sacrifice of love. So sometimes the illnesses that come, we don't plan for them. They just happen. We need to learn to take better care of ourselves as well. But they really, again, I'm just saying this, they show. And we have to go past the selfish nature, again, that comes out what you're bringing, to see and to show what you have and how the relationships can survive, even in the difficult times.
Natural disasters. We're from Antigua.
Hurricane City.
We have dealt with more hurricanes than you want to.
Yes.
You can dream of. And they are challenging. You'll be surprised how a natural disaster can actually shake a marriage. No, let me also say this. While we're saying it can have negative impacts, they can also have some good impacts.
Yes.
Natural COVID, natural disaster.
Yeah.
They call it natural. It is a pandemic.
Yeah.
Thank God for COVID. For some of us, we have spent more time with our spouses. Somebody say amen.
Amen.
We have had more time to be with each other and so forth. Now, for some people, that has resulted in not so good repercussions. Yes? But some people have done well in this crisis.
Yeah.
So, we're not saying that all crises are really terrible or bad for your relationship, but we know that if you manage it well, if you cope with it well, it can actually redound to your benefit.
The two pastors I was listening to, they're still saying our volume is low, so we're trying to work on that. I think we may have to raise our voice.
Yes.
I was listening to Cindy Trim and her husband just recently, and they were talking about the value of a Christian marriage. And there's nothing called a Christian marriage unless you live your marriage through the values of Christianity, right? And I was listening to Pastor Dan, a part of a message from Sunday this week, which is yesterday, and it was looking at all things working together for good. And sometimes we have to understand that the challenges in our relationship can and will work together for our good if we allow God to use them for His honor and His glory. So it's not just about destroying you. Sometimes we feel God getting back at me, I'm just unlucky, it's generational curse. If you are in a Christian marriage by this time, you should have taken authority and broken every generational curse in your line, in your spouse's line, and decided that this is not going to be in your marriage. But sometimes we get so caught up in the pity party of whatever this is and why is this happening to me, because we often ask why, and most times we don't get an answer to why. But one thing we can remember and hold on to as Christian people in Christian marriages, that all things will work together. And sometimes we don't get to dictate or determine the outcome, but God will work the good for His glory.
So I believe that as a follower of Christ, and this is true for some people who are not even following Christ, the things that have come your way, God has not sent them to destroy you. In fact, He has probably sent it to shape you, to bless you, to push you. Yes? In fact,
push is one of the big ones.
Yes, some of us became Christians because God allowed a crisis to come our way. So the crisis is hard to cope with in the context of the marriage, but probably if you work it with patience, if you continue to rely on God, and we're going to give you some other things, we believe you can actually come out stronger than before. Yes? Strengthen.
Also.
That's right. The other thing, illnesses.
You mentioned quite a number of those. The cancer.
Right. The illness of the spouse.
Yes.
That has repercussions. The illness for a child. That will have some repercussions, so that that can affect the time that you may have with the spouse. That may affect the interaction. That will affect the finances. Yes, and then the other thing, illness of a parent. some marriages have actually
Sorry.
suffered
Excuse.
because there is an elderly parent who now needs care.
And
How do you deal with
when
that?
you say suffer, we are saying that I am having my sinus issues flaring up now. Sorry. It's one of the illnesses that he has to deal with.
Yes.
From since we've been married. But this one has damaged a lot of marriages, because what often happens is that the spouse who is the in-law begins to say to the partner, you have to choose between mommy or daddy and me.
Because they have to spend so much time.
Yes, because
And-
they're taking money, they're taking time, and the spouse is feeling neglected. They're feeling sometimes, or abuse even, or they're just thinking that, we're not building our relationship, we're not focusing on me. And there's often a silent, I've experienced this, there's often a silent thought. It's not, I wouldn't say a wish, but it's a silent thought. I've experienced persons like that who say, I wish they would leave or die. Because the sickness of the parent is stressing our marriage so much, and it makes me feel as if our marriage is not as important to him as his relationship with his parent. His parent already raised him, or his parent already raised her. Why is this now impacting our marriage? And let me tell you
That's
something.
tough. It's really tough.
It's a hard balancing act to take.
And you didn't plan for your parent to get dependent
That ill.
on you.
Yes. And I want to encourage, if you find yourself in that situation, it's an honor to see your partner care for their elderly parent. Let me tell you, it shows in many instances what would happen if you became seriously ill. That person is very likely to look out for you in a similar way. And so it would be important that both of you come together and discuss some limits and some boundaries in this caretaking situation. If you have to get somebody to help a few days,
How can the
but
other
do not
siblings
let
help?
either of the relationships suffer because there is an ailing parent who needs care.
Right.
And it's often the argument, well, he has a brother or sister, or she has a brother or sister. They're the only one doing it. Okay, we're not discounting that. We accept that. But I'm saying to you, do not allow that situation to destroy the love, the commitment, and the joy that can come from your marriage.
Sometimes you have to make the hard decision that they go to a home or somewhere where they can get proper care. But that's another topic that we could delve into another time. But those are some of the things that can happen in a relationship. You don't know when those unplanned events will happen.
But what are some of the emotions that come up? What are some of the feelings that the people experience when these situations come upon them? We have, go ahead. Well, I was just thinking, we talked about the neglect with the parent, but that whole pain and uncertainty and fear and anxiety, those things are some of the feelings that they often experience. And so you're finding yourself, I love that one. So somebody mentioned,
I forgot that one.
unplanned, unwanted pregnancy. And I was just talking about the fear and even the shock. These things can make you feel like, I don't know if I can handle it. That's why it's called a crisis, because every coping mechanism that you have and you've used before that has worked, this time it's not working. Think about, I like this example, an unplanned pregnancy. Maybe you thought to yourself, I'm done with childbearing. We're just raising our children now. I'm looking forward to retirement, and whoops, here comes a pregnancy, and you're thinking, I don't have any money for this. Marriage is not going so well. But I've known of marriages that were going downhill.
Yes, saved
and
by
that late pregnancy restored the marriage.
And the converse has happened too.
Yes.
So
but
the unplanned pregnancy, unwanted is an even deeper one. No, there are people who don't want a child at the particular stage in their life.
Yes.
So I would separate unplanned and unwanted. Some unplanned pregnancies are wanted.
Yes.
Did we plan?
We didn't plan our third pregnancy, but
maybe the first one, the second one also came.
We're getting ready.
Right, we're getting ready. Right. So it's not planned, but it's still desired.
Accepted, yes.
It's different when it's unplanned
and
unwanted.
And can I just put this in
That's
really quickly? Because you see that pregnancy situation, that rejection, that unwanted feeling passes through that baby from inception. And that's why we have so many people walking around, little children, having feelings of rejection that they can't even identify the source of. Many times those feelings of rejection started when they were in the womb, because the mother didn't want them, the father didn't want them, and many times they feel that. But definitely, if it's an unwanted pregnancy, if it's a relationship that's already strained, whether it's in terms of love or finances, and they don't want another child to compound this issue because we're about to part, that can definitely, as Luan is saying again, they can definitely separate. Or based on how you allow the situation and God to use the situation, because that's the key thing, that can actually become a stepping stone for rebuilding a relationship that's going bad.
So how do we deal with it? We have mentioned a few things already, but we'll go with some more. And Billy, you can start.
Well, in terms of getting, dealing with the,
how do we cope?
I almost said unwanted. That has stuck in my brain. Dealing with the unplanned situations that come up.
Unwanted too. Unwanted situations.
We don't want them. You know, one of the first things that we experience is shock when we face something that is so unexpected and that really throws our life off kilter. One of the first things we have to do is listen. To each other. And also listen to yourself. I want to add to this, allow yourself to hear God in the situation. You see, at this point, you're going to find yourself, I mean, we discussed, but we didn't bring this on infidelity. You could find yourself trying to share about what's going on. Why is this happening? How is it affecting us? And because of the shock and the pain of the unwanted situation, you may find it hard to really tune in to what is going on past what you're feeling.
That's right.
So
you have to be able to listen, empathize with each other. The other unplanned thing, I don't know, maybe you would agree with me. I hope I'm not off the radar with this one. What about menopause? Now, people expect menopause at one stage or the other, but often it comes without you knowing.
Yes.
Now, that can cause...
Well, not without you knowing, but, you know, it's aware it's happening. But as
I'm talking about the onset of it. You don't know when it's going to happen, do you know?
Not predicting, but you could tell because the body begins to experience changes. But that did come to my mind while we're talking about illnesses.
So all the couples now, you have been married for a long time, things are going well, and next thing, menopause happens.
Yes. And the changes that are taking place physically, mentally, emotionally, psychologically with that woman. And, you know, we also have andropause. So don't just put it all on the woman. Yeah. The man also has his pause time. These really can, although in that one, although it's expected, it still kind of comes, you know, on you.
And it's almost like a midlife crisis.
Yeah. Well, it's past the midlife, but it can include that. Definitely. Yeah. So, listen. So I'm just saying it again. Allow yourself. Good night. Allow yourself to hear each other. Hear each other. But then while you're doing that, allow yourself to listen and hear what God is saying to you in the situation. Remember we mentioned that all things work together for our good, to them who are called according to his purpose. So whatever the situation is, if you allow God to minister to your spirit and direct you, that unplanned crisis or situation can actually become again a stepping stone into greatness, into testimony.
Yes, to becoming stronger. So here now, what about somebody who cheats? That's unplanned.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Unplanned?
It's unplanned, but that is a crisis, and that can really topple persons over. We want to reinforce this. I think we mentioned this before. Having infidelity in a marriage does not mean the marriage must end. But we understand it makes it more difficult for the marriage to survive and thrive. However, if both are consistent, both are committed to making it work.
If the offender is contrite and repentant and open to transparency and committed to change, then there's a possibility that you can actually come out even stronger. So sometimes we have heard of situations where the person has been married for 25 years and just like the man changed or the woman changed. That's
but even this thing that's happening now with Will and Jada with the entanglement, and everybody is commenting on it, and they talk. I think they're talking about. I haven't listened to the full story because I said to myself, I don't want to spend 15 minutes listening to crap because I know it's gonna frustrate me. But they're talking about having a bad marriage. They're committed to a bad marriage because it's a marriage. You know, these are some of the things. Now, the principle might be there in terms of commitment and holding on, but then there must be change. Christ doesn't deal with commitment unless there's change, right? There has to be the commitment of both parties involved there.
Right.
Yes.
So those unplanned things, the cheating, the menopause. Or
we have to talk about cheating in a different time, more in depth.
In terms of healing and so forth. Yes. So we did say, if you're going to deal with the crisis, listen. What's the next thing?
Next thing.
Don't blame each other. Don't take your frustrations out on each other.
One is to be blamed.
If the blaming is necessary and warranted, then blame for a day or two.
Well, let me help you out there.
So no, release yourself. Be open to the possibility that the person has to vent.
Yes.
But don't stay in that place of blame.
Let me add to that.
Right?
You're correct to an extent. Let me add to that, and this is very important. Blame tends to have a victim and a perpetrator, a villain and a victim, right? That's what blame does. So then you always have to have punishment and satisfaction. That's what blame does. But what we need to do in situations is to ascribe or take responsibility. Responsibility is a little different to blame because responsibility says, I recognize or I'm able to help you see the role that you played. But I'm not pointing a finger saying it's because of you, it's because of you. But I'm able to say, yes, there was a role that was played, and understand that we are both acting upon each other continually.
Right. So nobody's ever totally to blame. Well, there are cases,
yes.
But most times there is some kind of contribution one has made.
Reciprocal thing that's happening.
And so the blame, it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to be furious. Yes, but blaming doesn't solve the issue. I can tell you that. Focus on using the I statements. Billy knows this well as a counselor. I statements rather than the you statement. You. And say,
but you know, that's not so easy to do because
it's not natural.
Raised. Yes.
Lauren saying pressure does bust pipe, holding in stuff makes things eventually explode. We agree.
Yes.
So that's why we said it's okay to be angry. I believe it's okay to vent, and the person who is the offender must be humble enough and must be open enough to receive that venting. But what we're saying, it cannot be a constant thing. So if you're in the crisis and every day you're blaming, you say, are you, because of you. 2 days after, are you. 5 days after, you. 1 year after, it's still there. It's going to pull away. It's going to dig in to your marriage in a bad way.
That speaks to the level of pain or experience the person is having. But as you're talking about responding and making your commitment, there are 3 ways that you could respond to something. There's response, there's retaliate, and there is I can't remember the other one, but they're totally different. I'm going to tell you the other one another time. If somebody can remember, remind me, please. But if we learn to react, thank you. It's react, respond, retaliate. Many times in crisis, the almost is to retaliate.
Naturally,
or to react. Very often we fail to respond. Response says that we sit down, take it down, examine what is going on, and respond in a assertive way. So we're respecting your values and keeping my values and my desires as well in check. So we have to learn, as opposed to reacting or retaliating, which often comes with the anger and the vengefulness, we respond. And God shows us the best way to respond, even in crisis situations.
So in the crisis, please don't blame. The other thing we say is let your partner help. Let your partner help. Yes? We all have different skill sets, and some of us are better at dealing with certain situations versus others. If your partner is able and willing to take the lead, let them and ask when you can support. Yes?
But the other thing with that, that's a good point, because one of the things that often happens when crises arise in relationships is there's a natural tendency also, because we talked about responding and retaliating, to withdraw. There's a tendency to withdraw and to isolate. So if you're not lashing out at the person and blaming, there's often because of the emotions. And I want you to understand that your emotions are alive and well, and you don't have to try to deny them, but you need to master them and not let them master you. So often, based on the type of situation you're facing, you'd want to withdraw. Take, for example, a person who is ill and doesn't look the same way, doesn't provide the same physical and sexual satisfaction to their partner, they may want to withdraw. We didn't plan for this sickness, we didn't plan for this to happen. But no, rather than saying, you know, I feel different, our interactions are different, and I feel very afraid, I don't feel like I'm as attractive to you as I should be, or as I want to be,
So help me.
and I want to withdraw. How can we help? How can you help? Yes.
How can I help?
How can you help me? Yeah.
So
it's natural
let your
to
partner
want to
help.
withdraw, but let them help.
Let them help.
And that's the communication that we're often
Right. So the next
harping
thing
at.
is communicate.
Communicate.
Communicate your needs. For example, I need to know how I am feeling.
Yeah.
Right? Can be a very helpful way to start expressing yourself. Communicate how you're feeling. Yes. Communicate what your needs are at the moment. You will hear us almost every week talk about communication, to finances, communication, to rekindling the love. All of these sessions
There's
we have done
no
before.
way to be successful in a relationship if there's no open, honest communication.
And
It has
so,
to be communication.
again, it's absolutely necessary. What happens is that if you're in a crisis and you stop talking, there will be even more trouble.
Yeah.
Think about a fire in a house or whatever the natural disaster may be.
A storm.
And there's a storm, or somebody is in one room and the other person is in trouble. What if the person stop communicating?
Yeah.
Just stop.
Yeah.
First, if they stop communicating, you probably think they're dying or they have died. But the person who's in crisis needs to say, hey, I'm over here.
Yes.
My feet are stuck, or something like that, so that they can be proper. I don't get this off from Billy. Proper communication.
You know, and I just want to put this in because we've said it before, but I want to reiterate that every relationship will experience some sort of crisis.
Yes,
there's no relationship that is immune to no amount of wealth, no amount of years of experience, no amount of lovey-doveyness, or
how strong you are.
Whatever you are, whatever you have, or whatever you are in that relationship, your relationship will experience crisis and challenges at some point.
That's right. And if your relationship is solid and strong, and the communication is strong and what have you, then you might be able to navigate these crises a little more effectively. Right? The other thing is, sometimes you have to give each other some space. When we lost our boy, I realized I needed to give Billy some space, while also staying in close contact with her and listening to her and so forth. Yes?
So the space doesn't mean abandonment.
Right. The space doesn't mean abandonment.
Yes.
We don't mean leave the house and go about your business.
Take 2 weeks off.
Or stop talking. We're saying the person probably just needs some time to process what is happening.
Yes.
Yeah, Billy?
Yes, definitely. And that is where that individual can heal for themselves, so that healed and that healing can channel into the relationship itself. And so you have to be able, one, to communicate and say, listen, I'm not rejecting you, I'm not ending this relationship, but can I have some space? And you can even decide to tell them when you think you need that space and time. So you may say, you know what, after a set hour, just give me some time. I need to just focus. And you may be just sitting down and you may be crying, you may be praying and crying out to God. But you need to be able to communicate that. Again, we're using that word, communication. We cannot have a relationship without communication. To tell your partner, I need this space. And then to take that time to allow yourself to build. Now, if you find yourself falling into patterns of unhealthy thinking and the compulsive negative thoughts in those times where you're on your own, you're getting that time, you may need to go back and say, you know, I need time, but every time I get that time, I find this happening in my thoughts, I find this happening in my emotions. But allow yourself the time that you need and use that time to heal, so you could channel that healing into the relationship.
That's right. The next thing we are suggesting to dealing with a crisis now or if you'll deal with one in the future.
Mm-hmm.
We want you to understand that in the midst of the crisis, as you deal with the crisis, make an effort to connect and reconnect. Yes? It is hard during difficult times to smile or to enjoy each other, but you should make it a point to try. You still have to try. You still have to try. Some people feel guilty about laughing or enjoying themselves in the face of a tragedy or in the face of storms. Yes? But while there is an appropriate time and a place for sorrow and stress, it's okay to take a break. Have some fun.
But humor is also therapeutic.
Yes, reconnect.
Yeah, we teach that in psychology. Excuse me. Humor is actually one of the tools that help you to get through crisis.
Yeah.
We're gonna come to resilience, and I could share this. When we lost Zavi, it was a couple weeks later. We had one bust down laughing because. And of course, it wasn't funny, but it's how we dealt with it. Where Nevin was just sitting down there crying at the hospital. And I'm like, I want to go see my child. He did not, he cried. And I'm like, boy, you wouldn't stop crying. He was like, I wonder if you weren't crying. And we just started to laugh because, we're not laughing because we lost our son.
Yeah.
But that situation, it helped us even to show how we were so different.
Yeah.
Because in that crisis situation, I was not breaking down in tears. I was like, soldier, get up, let's go see what's happening here. And he who's normally, let's go get up and see what's happening here, soldier, had just come to his end. He's just sitting down there. And I'm saying, boy, hurry up.
I couldn't catch myself.
Yeah, he couldn't catch himself for a long while. And
But then the funny thing is,
stop crying.
that's how I deal with pain.
Yes.
I let it out, and then I bounce back fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Billy's different.
How am I different?
She's delayed with her.
I'm not
Yeah.
delayed.
Boy, the next day if you see balling, the next day after that, I'm not making fun of her.
I still cry. There are times I still
So there are a couple times she said, "Well, you don't look like it's
affected."
Right.
But
it was.
I know that men grieve differently to women, but then it is just that emotion because at some point I wanted life to just stop. Like our life was stopped, and you didn't get that privilege of life stopping with you in that life stopping experience that you had.
Yeah.
But that is so important as in terms of what you were just saying. Reconnecting.
Connect. Go out. Maybe there might be a time when
The humor.
the humor. Go on dates. Reconnect in ways you have done before. When COVID has passed, well, you can't go now, but go on a vacation.
Well, you can go on a staycation in Tobago. There are lots of people advertising staycations.
Staycations. I wish the prices were a little lower,
but you get the point.
Yes.
We're trying to encourage you in just practical ways how you could reconnect even after a crisis, because a crisis often acts like a wedge that is driven through your relationship, and we have to understand that our relationships need to survive and thrive. We need to show the world that God still is able to keep that which we commit unto Him, and we don't take our marriage vows lightly. It's not because we always like each other or we always think we're the best person. At the end of the day, we desire to see our relationship and the relationships of those around us thrive. So when the crisis hits, as you go through the steps that we've mentioned, you listen to each other, you communicate, you allow yourself to heal while you heal together.
Don't blame each other.
You don't blame each other. You allow God to direct you in how to interpret the situation.
Give
Find
some space.
time. You give the space. Find time to rekindle some of what has been lost in the crisis moment.
That's right.
Yeah.
If you have any questions.
Yes, you all are so quiet. Oh my goodness, please.
So when I used to teach at my alma mater, I got nervous when people weren't asking questions, because it either meant that they totally didn't get it, or they got it so they didn't have to say anything. So we hope that it is that you are receiving something that is helpful. As we have said, your relationship might be really good now, and we praise God for that. But this life tells us that some crisis is coming some way along the line, and we believe that all crisis the crisis that comes your way has not come to kill you, but has come to shape you, to make you stronger, and so forth. All right. Yes. So we believe that if you have any questions, you can ask. But I think that is just
the resilience.
Oh, we talk about resilience.
Yes.
Yes.
So one of the key things we have to understand is that okay, great.
Right.
Thank you. Praise God. Because we really want to see you guys and share with your friends and family.
Right.
Resilience is something that is so important on the individual level. It's also important on the relationship level.
Yeah.
Resilience is just a characteristic that says you can bounce back even after the most traumatizing situation. So we try to teach it from as little as we can. We teach our children, even though you fail a test, it doesn't mean that you're dumb. You just failed one test. I guarantee you're going to pass 5 more. So the child doesn't feel like I'm afraid not to take any of the tests because I failed this one.
But then the other thing is, having done the tests, you have built some knowledge.
Right.
You have crossed a particular line. And because I did it before, it means that I can more confidently face the other things. That's resilience.
And failure is a teacher.
Yeah.
Failure is a teacher. So the resilience gives you that bounce back capacity as an individual. So the key thing is to come into your relationship, or if you don't come into it, that's okay, because sometimes you people make it feel as if you have to come into a relationship perfect and already done. You come into the relationship whole, but still a work in progress.
That's right.
All right. So even if you didn't come in already resilient, you must at some point determine that you are going to build that resilience as an individual.
Right.
Go ahead.
And the truth is, resilience can only be established as you go through trouble.
Yeah.
I get stronger. I used to go to the gym often when I was younger. Maybe I need to go back very soon.
Amen.
But when I started, and I went with my friend Bernard, God bless him, he took me to the gym. It was in town. And the first day, I think I had a 10-pound weight or 20 pound. And the thing was heavy, man. 20. Oh boy, I said, I can't. And he worked me that day, boy. My muscles ached. I could hardly go to the car. When I got home and took a shower, the water hitting me literally hurt me. And I tried to lift my hand, and the hands couldn't go up. Muscles were on the real pressure. What I did not realize is that I was actually building resilience.
Yeah.
Yes? So as I went along, that which was too heavy for me at one point got
Easier.
more manageable. And I got stronger and stronger. 20 pounds became easy. I was now trying to deal. And the thing about lifting weights is that you keep going higher. 10 more pounds.
Adding weight.
5 more pounds. You're going through more pain and more pressure so that you can get to the next level. It's
so you heard that. There's pain and there's pressure. So we often say there's a song, no pain, no gain. No, we're not saying that your life must be painful for it to be worth it.
We don't want crisis to hit you.
No. But we understand that if when the crisis hits, you allow it. You allow it to help you. To help you build the tenacity, the spiritual, the mental, emotional muscles that you need to survive. Trust me, it will. Remember we said that earlier. It's not come to destroy you. You have to allow God to turn it and use it for your good.
Right. Somebody said a spouse is charged for a serious offense. Public, yes. That's a crisis.
Big one. That is a crisis. And I think this is one where shame becomes such a big factor. And shame affects that part of the brain where that pain affects as well. And often this is one of the things that lead to suicidal thoughts and even attempts. So if that is happening to somebody, it's important that you begin to communicate. You may want to start, because you may not want to rush out and talk to somebody right away, and that's understood. Begin to communicate with God through prayer. And even if you can communicate with a partner and they're willing and open, ask them to just share with you what's happening. Where did this come from? How did we get here? Sometimes you have to ask the question, how did he get there? Or how you or her get here? You know? But this is something, especially if it is something in the public, where other people are seeing it. We were talking about Will and Jada story. when we have these public displays of crisis, oftentimes the public, it wields a blow not only at the relationship but at the individual strength of the person, you know. And so you have to understand that you are still, that's why we're talking about resilience. You are able to bounce back and use that as a muscle, as a weight, to build the muscle. That shame will not be your final situation for yourself because or your relationship.
Then you start to blame yourself. And then when the person gets home or you have a chance to interact, you then blame them constantly. No, the blame is there. It's theirs, isn't it?
Right.
But
there must be some responsibility.
There must be responsibility. But if you're going to get through it, it cannot be constantly be brought up as the reason for all of your issues and pain. Yeah? That's tough.
Or can it be ignored? So we're not saying that we're supposed to just ignore things.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I mentioned this always a different video I was doing. Whatever you sweep under the carpet, eventually is going to trip you up. So sometimes in marriages we sweep things under the carpet so long that we forget they're there, and then one day we find ourselves falling over ourselves and can't understand why. It's all the things that you've swept under the carpet. So we're saying again, the tips that we just mentioned there, begin to communicate, listen to the person, listen to God, listen to your own spirit, allow yourself to connect. And sometimes you may not be able to connect with the partner, but connect to healthy relationships that help you cope. Not for destruction, but for rebuilding your mental, emotional self, rebuilding the relationship, rebuilding your spiritual life as well.
If you just got married, you're in a new relationship and that kind of thing, just know somewhere along the line you're going to have to deal with an unplanned event. Yes? And we have identified some of them, and we have said what are the things that you can do when those things happen. Yes?
We just have about 6 minutes.
Yes, so we wrap up now. We are grateful that you tune in. We want you to know that life happens. Yes? We wish we don't have to go through pain and struggle. We wish we don't have these unplanned events. We wish that there were no disasters, no illnesses, no loss of job or ability or anything like that. We wish nobody would cheat. We wish that menopause would not be so disruptive or andropause. We wish that they wouldn't happen. But
we realize
we'd be really we'd be really fooling ourselves and fooling people that we speak to and are accountable to if we don't tell you that sometimes bad things can happen. And do happen. But those bad things can be turned around for the good. Yes, what the enemy meant for evil, God can turn it for good. And sometimes the enemy didn't send it. Sometimes God sent it. God
and sometimes your own ways.
And sometimes our ways. We go out and publicly humiliate our families and ourselves. Sometimes the devil not do a thing to you. Is you decided you doing it because you didn't listen. Yes? But whatever it is, you can come out stronger. You can become closer to God, and your relationship can be even better. Yes? So we encourage you right now, if you are going through a rough time, if you're facing a hard circumstance, if you are dealing with a crisis now, whether it's COVID or anything else, we want to declare over you right now that your relationship can survive and it can thrive in Jesus' name. So we encourage you, don't give up. Don't throw in the towel. We believe that you can come out stronger on the other side.
And if you must, there comes a time when you may have to talk to somebody. Find somebody. We're not saying you have to talk to us, but find somebody who you can be accountable to, who can be neutral, who can give you godly guidance, instruction, and pray with you so that you can make it. At the end of the day, no situation is too far for God, and every unplanned crisis situation, as Nevin just said, can be turned and used for the glory and honor and of God, and definitely for the improvement of your life and your relationship.
Amen. Well, this is another episode of Muddy Puddles.
Tell them what Muddy Puddles is again now.
Yes.
Just in case the first time you're coming on. Good night, Katisha. Thank you for being with us tonight.
We have children and they watch TV now and again. We allow them a limited amount every day. My youngest The second, well, even the youngest one, now we have to pray for him. They love Peppa Pig. But the part that they love the most is the muddy puddles.
Yes.
The Peppa Pig and family, they love to jump in them. And we thought to ourselves, it's Billy, who came up with this? Muddy puddles.
That's life.
That's life. Yes, rain will fall sometimes.
Storms will blow.
And the result of the rain and the storm is sometimes mud. But those muddy puddles can be a source of blessing,
Yeah.
can be a source of opportunity. You can get stronger and you can experience even better if you don't ignore the muddy puddles.
Yes.
But sometimes you jump in them.
Yes.
Sometimes you use them to put you to the other level.
Yeah.
God bless you. Look, we have many very interesting topics coming ahead. I don't think we'll run out of topics right now. If you have any other topic or anything you think is important that you want us to discuss, there's something you want to hear about from us, please don't be afraid to message us privately. Billy and I will be happy to receive it. And we pray God's blessing upon you tonight. God bless you. Have a wonderful night.
Good night.